A warm welcome to all our participants here, and I want to thank you beforehand for being here to listen to me. I also want to thank Anukriti for giving me the opportunity to be here and to speak to all of you. So, my session today is titled Three Lessons on Mental Health During the Pandemic. I'll explain what the title means. Let me just start by giving some context and background on COVID and mental health. So, COVID 19 has been, I think you would agree with me, absolutely an unprecedented time for all of us. Never in our wildest dreams could we have imagined that something like this will descend upon us. So, in February, if a fortune teller had told me that Megha, you will be in lockdown very soon, I would have been utterly surprised and dismissive, saying, "Lockdown? What do you mean? How can I be in lockdown? I'll never be in lockdown." So, but yet here we are. We went through about 70 odd days of lockdown. And I'm sure some of you have also had this feeling along the way that everything that's happening is surreal. It's like a movie, one of those Hollywood alien movies in which this external force comes and takes over all of Earth. And then you realize, no, this is not a movie. This is happening for real. So one thing is for sure that these times are difficult ones. But what is also for sure is that this entire time of pandemics is going to leave a lot of lessons for us in its wake. There are going to be lessons about public health. There are going to be lessons about life, about us as people, and lessons about our own resilience. Resilience, of course, is this human ability to bounce back from adversity, to bounce back from difficult times. These times, the COVID times, are a test of our resilience. But one thing human beings have proven is that they are remarkably resilient. So I know we will bounce back. In terms of the lessons learned, today I would like to focus on what I believe can be some important lessons about mental health that we can learn during these pandemic times. So I will start by talking about health and mental health, what they are very briefly, and then I will move on to what I believe are three critical lessons for us to learn. So let's briefly talk about what is health. So if you look at the WHO's definition of health, since 1948, the WHO has looked at health not just as a matter of the body. So it's not just physical health, but they also look at health as having another dimension, which is mental. Health pertaining to your mind. So health is physical, health is mental. And the third dimension they talk about in terms of health is that health is social. That means health also includes the relationships that you have in life, the strength and the quality of those relationships. Hence, health is physical, bodily, mental, that is pertaining to the mind, and health is also social. That means it pertains to the relationships that you have in life. Also, the WHO explains that health is not just the absence of illness, that if you don't have an illness, you are healthy. No, it's not as simple as that. Just like peace is not the mere absence of war. Peace is so much more than the mere absence of war. Similarly, health is so much more than just the absence of illness. Health is this feeling inside of you that you have the vitality and the energy and the zest to do everything that you want to do. It's this feeling of well-being you have, that I'm well, I am safe, I am secure. The presence of that kind of feeling is health. Now let's come to mental health. So mental health is a sort of abstract concept. It's a little intangible, so sometimes it can be difficult to understand. I will say that mental health and the meaning of it can be best understood in terms of four feelings. So a person enjoys good mental health when they have these four feelings inside of them. The first of those feelings is that the feeling that I'm being able to live up to my potentialities. I am realizing my potentialities. I am realizing my talents. I am living out my competencies as a person. The second feeling you have that is associated with good mental health is the feeling that you are able to deal with the normal stresses of your life. So the traffic jams, the lost keys, the arguments, the tiny arguments with your friends or colleagues don't overwhelm you. Even if you feel bothered by them, you find the energy in yourself to deal with them, right? So you are able to deal with the normal stresses of your life. Another feeling associated with good mental health is the feeling that you're living a productive life. So the sense that you have some goals and you are working towards them, you are getting near them. And the fourth feeling associated with good mental health is that you're contributing to your community. So surely you're pursuing your own goals, but also you are giving back to the community that you live in and the community that surrounds you. Right? So now that we know a little bit about what good mental health means, let's look at the mental health scenario in our country. The scenario that I'm describing to you is from data collected in 2018-19 and it's pre-COVID data. So one of the things about India is that unfortunately we haven't been paying too much attention to mental health. So the mental health scenario here hasn't been great. So if you see, mental health problems are quite prevalent in our country. There are estimates that at least 1 out of 5 Indians will experience depression at some point in their life. And that means millions of Indians will feel depressed at some point of their life. And a plethora of factors fuel depression: loneliness, academic pressures, extreme competition, conflicts in the house, abuse in the house. These are the kind of factors that can fuel depression over the long term. Unfortunately, sometimes we have 2 or 3 such factors in our lives, not just one. The other parameter which is worrisome for India as far as mental health is concerned is suicide. So we have very high rates of suicide, and it's the 15 to 29 age group that has the highest statistics for suicide. There are a lot of myths that surround suicide as a phenomenon. The general public feels saddened by it, but we don't have high levels of awareness about it. So for different people who attempt suicide, there are different patterns. Some people will talk about it before they try it. Others will never talk about it. But what we do know through research is certain risk factors that can predispose a person to suicide. So, for instance, a family history of suicide, or childhood traumas and maltreatment, clinical depression, substance abuse, feelings of loneliness and isolation, and impulsive tendencies. These are some of the things that can create a risk for suicide, and it's something we must look out for in the lives of our loved ones. The third thing that's important when it comes to mental health scenario in our country is the treatment gap. There is a huge gap between the number of people who need treatment, which is this high, and the number of people who receive treatment, which is here. There is a big gap between the two. This gap is partially explained by shortage of medical personnel. So we have about 4,000 psychiatrists to deal with the entire set of people in our country who have mental health problems. That's millions of people and 4,000 psychiatrists. The number of psychologists are even fewer. Also, the mental health scenario, apart from few medical professionals, is also explained by the lack of awareness around mental health in our country and the stigma associated with having a mental health problem. Let's just talk about lack of awareness. There is lack of awareness as far as the symptoms of mental health problems are concerned. What are the symptoms of depression? What are the symptoms of OCD? These are not very widely understood. Moreover, we also don't have that much awareness about the causes of mental illnesses. Even now, mental illnesses are attributed to karma. They are attributed to evil spirits. Mental illnesses don't come from karma. They don't come from evil spirits. Usually, mental illnesses come from an interaction of biological, psychological, and social factors. So, for example, What predisposes a person to depression? Biologically, it could be that certain hormones or neurotransmitters are not working appropriately in your body. That could predispose you to depression. Psychologically, a thinking pattern in which you are prone towards pessimistic thinking or perfectionist standards, those kinds of psychological patterns could make you prone to depression. And socially, this feeling that you don't have enough supportive relationships in your life, or you feel as if you're being marginalized by people in your life, socially, that's a factor that could lead you to depression. So what I'm just presenting in front of you is a biopsychosocial perspective on depression. And this is the perspective that we need to share with the general public. As far as stigma is concerned, I will just come to stigma as well. Both lack of awareness and stigma can be changed. These are very alterable scenarios. And the first thing that we have to do is start talking about mental health widely. And thus, I'm happy that this session is taking place and giving us a chance to talk about mental health. I would now like to come to the main crux of my talk today, which is the lessons about mental health that can be learned during COVID times. I'm going to talk about 3 lessons, and those 3 lessons can be encapsulated in the word care, C-A-R-E, care. So the first lesson comes from C. The first lesson is about connection. I'll tell you the connection between what. Then there is A. A stands for attaching importance. I'll tell you attaching importance to what. And RE in care stands for the third lesson, which is relationships. So I'll briefly talk about each lesson, and then perhaps if there are questions, I'll be happy to take those up. Okay, so let's come to lesson number 1, connection. What connection am I talking about? The connection that I'm talking about in this particular context is the connection between the mind and the body. We often operate in our lives as if our mind and our body are 2 separate parts of ourselves. No, they are not. They are actually both within us and both deeply interacting with each other and impacting each other. COVID has brought this connection out very, very clearly. And I'll tell you how. What is coronavirus? Coronavirus is a virus that attacks the body. It leads to a very infectious disease, and all its symptoms are in the body. So you have fever, you have cough, you feel exhausted, and it basically affects your respiratory tract, either your upper or lower respiratory tract. It's all physical. No, but it's not all physical. The very threat that corona makes to your physical health has had direct implications for mental health as well. So there were surveys carried out in the US in the month of April, where 44% respondents in the survey said that COVID had adversely affected their mental health also. Then there are psychologists in the US and India who are reporting that if they have helplines for distressed people, the number of calls being received for distress has gone up phenomenally. Some helplines in America have reported 1,000% increase in the number of calls they are getting because people are feeling very distressed about it. We have also felt the mental health load. There is anxiety because of uncertainty. We don't know what's going to happen next. There is fear that we might get the virus. There is worry about the state of the economy. There is this sad feeling, and for some of us, depression, that life has come to a standstill. So we've all felt that mental health impact created by a virus that's actually totally just attacking the body, right? So one of the things, and what Corona has done is, it has made us face 2 things that we always want to run away from, which is disease and death. Corona has somehow brought those to the forefront. And what we used to run away from all the time is all that we talk about these days. It's bound to affect our mental health. So the connection between the mind and the body, how if something is threatening your body, it can actually affect your mind, your thinking, your feeling, is something that psychologists recognized as early as the 1970s. But this is the connection that we now need to bring forth to policymakers and to the general public. And what the implication of this connection is that anyone who's having a physical health issue requires mental health support as well. So during times like this, if someone has COVID or is fearful about COVID, they need mental health support. And in fact, that's true for any physical problem. Being diagnosed with breast cancer, being diagnosed with AIDS, or being diagnosed with corona, there has to be an availability of mental health services for a person in that situation. That, I feel, is lesson number one. The second lesson that I would like to talk about is attaching importance. Attaching importance. What am I attaching importance to? To mental health. For too long, mental health has been on the back burner. So as a country, we are happy to talk about diabetes and heart disease. They are taken to be very real diseases, very worthy of treatment and a trip to the doctor. But if you tell someone that, that you may be getting OCD, or you may be getting some kind of hallucinations, or you may be feeling very, very dejected, any of these things are dismissed. And, they are treated as less valid and less worthy of attention. Why is diabetes so worthy of attention? Why is obsessive compulsive disorder not worthy of attention? Historically, it's always been that physical health problems have received more attention and more money than mental health problems have. And the time to change that has come. Now let me come to stigma. What has happened is that there is a lot of stigma associated with mental illness. So when you tell someone that you have a mental health problem, the reactions could be quite unfortunate. The reactions could be, oh, you're depressed, kuch nahi hota ye depression, you're just seeking attention. Or you would be told that this is just a phase, don't worry, you'll snap out of it. Or you could actually be blamed for the problem. You could be blamed for feeling depressed. So mental health stigma actually comes from this whole idea that anyone who has mental health issues is somehow damaged or broken or seeking attention. And the saddest thing is that while going to a doctor for diabetes is absolutely fine, somehow going to a psychologist for therapy makes you weak. How does that make you weak? You are seeking help for a mental health problem just like you would seek help for diabetes. So what Corona has done is it's put us all in this unique position where for the first time for as long as I can remember, we have collectively felt the impact on our mental health. We have collectively felt that mental health issues exist, that mental health is fragile and needs to be taken care of, because we've all felt the worry, we've all felt the anxiety, we've all felt the loneliness. In this collective experience, I feel one silver lining could be that the dialogue around mental health starts to open up even more, because more people will be willing to acknowledge the reality of mental health problems. People have started posting about these things on social media more than ever before. So I think hopefully COVID will go, but the dialogue that it has generated around mental health should definitely stay. That is one momentum we should not let go of. Now, coming to the final lesson in my series, the lesson number 3 is RE, which stands for relationships. One thing that also Corona seems to have taught us is that relationships or social support are really important for both mental and physical health. Why was COVID so difficult for us? COVID's been so difficult for us. There is that fear of illness. But also COVID took away from us so many things that we used to just rely on to lead a happy life. So going to the gym, going to college, going to work, meeting friends. COVID took away our ability to meet our friends and extended family and cousins. So it's been shown across cultures that one factor that contributes consistently to happiness is not money, it's relationships. And in some research that I'm doing, we spoke to 15 college students about what they missed out the most during the lockdown. And a lot of them said friends. So the thing about social support is that when you have good people in your life who care for you, even if they are 2 or 3, you feel this sense of strength. You draw strength from them. And you feel that you'll be able to deal with whatever life throws at you because those 3 people are there now. When you enjoy good relationships in life, these people who you rely on give you three kinds of support. So they give you, number one, emotional support. So they'll reassure you when you're feeling sad. They'll feel happy for you when you're feeling happy. So that's emotional support. The other is they'll give you instrumental support. So if there is something that you need but you don't have, they'll get it for you. So if you need a car, they'll lend you the car. If you don't have money, you can borrow it from your friends. So they give you that kind of support is called instrumental support. And the third form of support that your loved ones give you is informational support. So if you want to find out something, if you need guidance in something, these loved ones will give you guidance. So if you are afraid of what you will do or what you should do if you get corona-like symptoms, and your masi or your friend is a doctor, and you can just call them up and ask them, you feel so much better after talking to them because they've provided you the right information. Okay? So one of the things that corona has taught us is that it can be very difficult when we lose out on these relationships. But also in corona times, we have been very fortunate that we've had technology with us, through which we can still remain connected with our friends and family. This, I feel, is something we should take very seriously. Just make an attempt to still, even during this time of isolation, remain virtually connected with at least 2 or 3 people in your life who you trust and you love. There are 2 things that I really want to stress at this point of time. One is that try to have positive conversations with your friends or your family members. You don't have to talk about corona all the time. Try to focus on positive stories. Try to focus on other things that are happening in your life and in the world. Life needn't just become about this virus. The other thing is that when there are loved ones in your life, please ask for help if you need it. A lot of us are just reluctant to ask for help. But I think one needs to be open to both receiving support and giving support. If you're feeling down and out, just reach out. I had a young man tell me the other day that he was never able to share his mental health problems with anyone because he felt he would burden them by sharing his problems. So I asked him, okay, let's switch roles. Tell me, if a friend comes to you and tells you about a problem he's having, will you think he's burdening you? So this young man said, no. I'll be very happy, in fact, that my friend shared it with me so that I can help him. So I said, well, that applies to you too. When you share your problems with a loved one, they don't feel burdened. They feel relieved that you shared the problem. And then you can put your collective minds together and try to look for a solution to the problem. So I think one of the things that I would like to end the session with is saying that because COVID has brought mental health to the fore, the question is, are you taking care of your mental health? I would recommend that you highly do take care of your mental health, whether there is any COVID or whether there is not, because mental health is within you and it impacts everything that you do. So acknowledge your feelings. Don't stuff them down. Where will they go? They will remain inside of you. So if you're feeling anxious, or you're feeling judged, or you're feeling sad, or you're feeling great, acknowledge it to yourself. And if things get too much, reach out to somebody who loves you. It's okay to be vulnerable once in a while. It's human to be vulnerable once in a while. 2 other things I would recommend. Please don't compare your experiences to other people. Don't look at him or her or what she's doing and what she's feeling. What matters is what you're feeling. Manage your feelings. Another thing, don't watch the news too much. Watch it in little amounts. Watch what is necessary. And there are lots of positive stories out there which you will find if you look for them. Look for positive stories during these difficult times. Other things which are important, take care of your body. Like I told you, mind and body are connected. When you take care of your body, eat right, when you exercise, it helps with your mind. Have a routine, try to keep yourself busy. And if people in your life aren't being able to provide the kind of support that you need, there are external resources you can refer to. There's a lot of online counseling that's going on. I'm happy to speak to college students about any mental health concern that they have. Feel free to write into me or get in touch with me. And if you're not quite ready to talk to a person, there are lots of mindfulness apps and mental health apps that are free of cost, You can download them and you can use them. My main recommendation is to take a proactive stance in taking care of your mental health. I would just say care. So that's all I have to say for today. And if there are any questions or anything Anukriti would like to say, I'd be happy to hear. Thank you.
Thank you so much, ma'am. It was really nice session. We came to know about a lot of things. I think our founder has
Thank you, Anukriti.
Thank you, Dr. Megha, for joining us today and
Thank
sharing
you.
your experiences and motivating everybody out here to focus upon the positive things in life and especially taking care of our mental well-being. Many a
Yes.
times it happens that along with students, even people who are working tend to take a lot of stress because of the work from home scenario right now. And we tend to
Yes.
forget that mental health is as important as being physically fit. So thank you for
True.
emphasizing on that and motivating everyone to be conscious in what they're discussing. Discussing positive things apart from COVID as well is very important. So we at Samyukta Shree Foundation are really glad that you took out time from your busy schedule, shared your knowledge with all of us. So we thank you for
so
conducting this
much.
wonderful session.
It's been an absolute pleasure to be on this forum. Thank you so much.
Thank you to all the participants as well for joining in this evening for the session, and thank you, Dr. Megha, for spending time with us today.
My pleasure. Okay, thank you.